Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise and get you straight to the really important insights from the latest research and news. It really wasn't that long ago. The whole world was kind of holding its breath, wasn't it? Dealing with that global health crisis. And that experience, well, it was a stark reminder, I think, of how fast things can change and how connected everything really is on our planet. So today we're plunging into something new, a scientific study that's making waves in the global health world. It's shedding light on some, well, surprising and frankly potentially very concerning new viruses found in bats in China. Our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We want to unpack exactly what the researchers found and then really try to understand what the potential implications could be for, global health and crucially explore what experts are actually recommending we do about it. We're drawing our insights today mainly from a big study published in PLOS Pathogens. It's been reported by outlets like the Economic Times and Z News, so solid sources. So if you're someone who wants to be genuinely well informed about these emerging global challenges, maybe the cutting edge of biological threats, you're definitely in the right place. Okay, so to kick things off, let's dig into the core findings. What exactly did these scientists uncover? And this wasn't like a quick look, right? This was a serious effort, multi-year. It involved a pretty big team, too. Scientists from several Chinese universities working with international partners.
That's right. It was a collaborative effort really focused on understanding this hidden viral landscape, specifically within bats. Their method was quite detailed. They collected kidney samples, just the kidneys, from 142 bats. And not just one type of bat, 10 different species.
Wow, 10 species. Okay.
Yeah. And they gathered these samples over a few years, between 2017 and 2020, and across 5 different sites within China's Yunnan province. So it was geographically spread out too.
So a pretty significant sample size and scope then, really trying to get a broad picture.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating here, and maybe, a little unsettling, is the sheer diversity they found just in those kidney samples. Using genetic sequencing, pretty advanced stuff, they identified 22 different viral species.
Easy too. Yeah.
But here's the kicker, the part that really raises concerns for global health. 20 of those, 20,
Right.
are entirely new viruses.
Completely new, never seen before.
Never documented by science before. Nope. I mean, this isn't just ticking a box. It fundamentally changes how we think about the viral biodiversity out there, especially in bats. It's a stark reminder of how much we still don't know and how quickly nature can, throw us curveballs, new biological challenges. And among these new discoveries, 2 findings really jump out. They immediately set off alarm bells for health experts. They found 2 henipaviruses.
Henipaviruses. Okay, I've heard of those. Nipah, Hendra.
Precisely. And critically, these new ones aren't just distant cousins. They're closely related to those deadly Hendra and Nipah strains we know about. Specifically, one of them, they've called it Yunnan bat henipavirus 1, shares up to 71% similarity in P proteins.
71%, that sounds high.
It is, especially because it's in the N and L proteins. These aren't just random bits. They're crucial for the virus to replicate and infect cells. So having 71% similarity in those proteins means this new virus basically has a very similar operating manual to Hendra and Nipah. It makes it the closest known wild relative to these really dangerous viruses.
And it wasn't only viruses they found, was it? You mentioned other things.
Right, exactly. The researchers also looked at other microbes in the kidneys. They call the infectome.
The infectome, like the whole ecosystem of microbes inside.
Yeah, basically. Bacteria, fungi, parasites, the whole microscopic community living in there. They found a new protozoan parasite, Klebsiella unionensis, and 2 new bacterial species, too, including one called Flavobacterium unionensis.
Okay.
So this wider view is important. It shows bats are incredibly complex hosts for a huge range of microorganisms. Some we know, many totally new. It kind of makes you think how vast that microbial world really is, doesn't it? Thriving in places we barely consider.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the significance. Why are health experts paying such close attention? It comes down to these henipaviruses, right?
Yeah.
For those of us, who aren't virologists, the name might not mean much. So what exactly are these viruses? Why the concern?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, henipaviruses, they're notorious. They have a really troubling track record when it comes to human health. They're known for causing really severe brain inflammation, encephalitis, and serious respiratory illness.
Brain inflammation. Okay. That sounds serious.
It is. And here's the statistic that really demands attention. In past outbreaks, these viruses have shown fatality rates as high as 75% in humans.
75%. 3 out of 4 people.
Exactly. 3 out of every 4 people infected in some outbreaks could die. It's a devastating scale of loss. much, much higher than many other viruses we hear about. And when you compare that, to other known viruses, the sources we looked at even described them as far more lethal than the coronavirus. One headline actually asked 20 times more dangerous than COVID.
Yeah, 20 times.
Now, it's crucial to understand that comparison is mostly about the fatality rate historically observed, how deadly they can be once someone is infected, not necessarily how easily they spread compared to something like COVID, but it gives you a stark perspective on their potential severity.
Right, context is key there.
Definitely. And we have real-world examples, unfortunately. There were those Nipah outbreaks in Malaysia and Bangladesh. They caused rapid, severe encephalitis and respiratory failure. Huge loss of life in those communities. And Hendra cases in Australia, mainly in horses, but people got infected too, usually from contact with sick horses.
So these past outbreaks show us what could happen.
Yes. The potential symptoms? Severe respiratory problems, that terrible brain inflammation, nervous system damage, even sudden death in extreme cases. And the recurring theme is high fatality rates and very limited treatment options. That's similar to what we saw with Nipah before and, aspects of COVID too, in terms of severity for some.
Okay, so these viruses were found deep inside bat kidneys in Yunnan. That seems quite specific. How could they possibly jump from there to humans? That feels like a big leap.
Yeah, that's a really important question. It's about the specific location of the viruses within the bats and how that intersects with human activity. The researchers pointed out a critical environmental issue. These bats, they aren't just hiding away in remote caves. Often they roost in orchards right next to rural villages.
Orchards, like fruit trees.
Exactly. Fruit trees where people live and work. And the bats are roosting right there, nearby, or even directly above. This creates, well, a very high-risk situation.
Okay, I see.
The main way they think transmission could happen is simple but alarming. Urine droplets from the bats could contaminate fruit or water sources. And then villagers, or maybe their animals, might consume that contaminated fruit or water.
Right, direct contact through something contaminated.
Precisely. And one expert, molecular virologist Vinod Balasubramaniam, he emphasized this exact point. He said this specific localization raises alarm about potential human exposure via contaminated fruits or water.
And we've actually seen this kind of thing before. Remember the Nipah cases in Bangladesh?
Vaguely, yeah. How did that happen? It was linked to contaminated date palm sap. People would collect the sap, which bats had contaminated with urine overnight. Then they'd drink it, direct pathway.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And what makes this Yunnan discovery even more concerning is, well, geography. Yunnan is relatively close to regions like Malaysia, where Nipah first popped up.
So similar environments, similar risks, maybe.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
That geographic link definitely raises the stakes for potential spillover events. The conditions for human-animal interaction and, viral transmission could be quite similar.
So, given all this, the proximity, the potential pathways, is spillover inevitable? I mean, does this mean it will happen, or are there other factors? It sounds incredibly precarious.
That's a crucial point. Spillover is not inevitable. While the risk factors are definitely there, it needs a kind of perfect storm. The virus itself needs the right traits. It has to actually be capable of infecting human cells effectively. Just because it's related doesn't guarantee that. And then there needs to be enough exposure for that jump to happen. Often, you also need intermediaries, like other animals, maybe pigs or horses, something that bridges the gap between bats and humans, amplifies the virus.
Ah, so it's not always a direct bat-to-human jump?
Not always, no. And Dr. Alison Peel, she's an ecologist who wasn't part of this study, she offered some good perspective here. She pointed out that actually, many helepavirus relatives appear not to be of any concern.
Really? So they might look similar genetically, but not be dangerous to us.
Exactly. They might lack the specific biological tools needed to infect our cells effectively. But, she stressed, and this is key, laboratory testing is vital. We absolutely need to test these new viruses, see if they can actually infect human cells or livestock cells in a lab setting. That's how we understand their real pandemic potential.
Right. So move from discovery to actual risk assessment through testing.
Precisely. It's about careful, targeted research, not just sounding a general alarm based only on the genetic sequence. We need to know if a virus that looks bad on paper can actually do bad things in the real world, or at least in lab models.
This whole situation, it just feels eerily familiar, doesn't it? Like echoes of a few years ago. How does this discovery connect to what we already know about viruses jumping from animals to humans? Especially after, COVID-19, it feels like we're hearing a similar story.
It really does. And the timing, just a few years after COVID-19 emerged from Wuhan, It really serves as a stark, powerful reminder of our ongoing vulnerability to these zoonotic diseases, diseases jumping from animals to us. And bats, well, they've long been known as major carriers, kind of incubators, for a whole range of pathogens.
Like what else?
Oh, things like rabies, SARS, Ebola, many others.
Mm.
Bats are unique hosts. They have these remarkable immune systems that let them carry lots of viruses without getting sick themselves.
So they're like flying reservoirs.
Pretty much. That, plus they fly long distances. They're social. It makes them incredibly efficient natural reservoirs for viruses that can potentially cause zoonotic outbreaks.
Right.
The core message from this new study, it's very clear. This investigation is a profound wake-up call.
Another one.
Another one, yes. As human populations keep expanding, pushing into wildlife habitats, especially where we end up sharing food and water sources, well, those shared spaces become bridges. Bridges for viruses to cross from animals to humans. It just underlines a basic ecological truth. Our health is deeply, deeply linked to the health of the ecosystems around us.
Okay, so we have this stark warning, this potential for spillover. What are the actual solutions? What can realistically be done to stop this becoming another global crisis? Or even just a really bad local outbreak? It can feel a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, it can. But the experts, both involved in the study and commenting on it, they stress it needs a multifaceted approach. There's no single magic bullet. It's about layers of defense.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, strengthening local health systems. They're often the absolute first line of defense. That doesn't just mean building more hospitals, but having community health workers trained to spot unusual symptoms early. They're the eyes and ears on the ground.
Makes sense.
Also, educating communities. Simple things, but really effective safety measures, like covering fruit, boiling water before drinking it, especially in areas where bats live close to people. These simple actions can actually break the chain of transmission.
Right. Practical steps people can take.
Exactly. Then, beyond that, there's a critical need to expand microbial monitoring. Not just general surveillance, but really focusing on bat organs like kidneys and their urine, since that's where these new viruses were found. This targeted approach helps find threats before they spread widely.
So more specific searching.
Yes. And that needs to be combined with proactive global surveillance and strong health preparedness plans. That means better international data sharing, having rapid response teams ready, stockpiling medical supplies just in case. And then, on the even broader scale, we need to strengthen international health infrastructure overall. We need to fund preventative research into these kinds of novel pathogens before they cause problems, and enforce wildlife monitoring policies.
It's a big list.
It is. And the sources, they wrap this up with a really powerful, almost urgent call to action. One quote was, "Nature has thrown us yet another red flag, and this time, the world can't afford to look away."
Hmm. A clear warning.
Yeah, it's basically saying we've been warned again. Ignoring it now, especially after everything we've learned recently, would be, well, perilous.
So, wrapping this up, this deep dive into these new bat viruses from China, it really is a potent illustration, isn't it? Of that delicate, maybe precarious balance between us, human civilization, and the natural world. It just underscores how interconnected we are with ecosystems we often maybe overlook or just underestimate. Finding 20 entirely new viruses, and 2 of them being close relatives to really deadly cenipaviruses, it's a significant marker, a sign of the ongoing biological challenges we face, and just proof of the constant evolution happening out there. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Given that we keep finding new pathogens and, our human footprint on the planet keeps expanding, what does it truly mean to be prepared for future biological challenges? And maybe what role do we play as individuals in this whole global health picture? Beyond just waiting for policy or scientific breakthroughs, how do we balance our own curiosity, our desire to explore, with the responsibility to protect both human health and the health of the planet? It's certainly a lot to think about. Something worth mulling over as the world around us keeps revealing its hidden complexity.